All right, welcome back to Wmma Now with your host Chuck Stevenson, coming at you with a special fight review. So we're going to Las Vegas, Nevada, to the UFC Apex for UFC Fight Night. Grasso versus Araujo. We're going to the Flyweight main event. Fifth ranked Flyweight Alexa Grasso coming in at 14-3, taking on the sixth ranked Viviane Araujo coming in at 11-3. This is a first 5 round, main event fight for either of these two. So there's a big test and, big ranking and title shot implications out of this fight as well. So first round starts and, there was a ton of jabs thrown, some good combinations by both fighters. Both definitely got some work done in the first round. Grasso mixed punches to the body, and she threw more kicks out of the two. And then Grasso did manage to stop both takedown attempts by Vivi. And in the second round, Vivi beat Grasso to the punch early, then caught a double leg at about, about the 2 minute mark. Some top control, positioning, a little less than 2 minutes, but honestly, she really didn't do much with the top control. And she went for a crucifix attempt, and Grasso was able to explode out of it. And then, honestly, after that, for like the final minute of the round, Grasso completely took over on the feet, landing the harder punches, beating Vivi to the punch, and just landing the harder punches. Third round was a slower round. Mostly, it was a battle of jabs. Vivi threw with more power this round, but usually they were single punches. Just threw a lot of single punches. Both attacked the body some, and then both ended up turning it up a little bit at the end within like the final 10-15 seconds. So then we get to the championship rounds. Fourth round, the closest round in my opinion by far. It was largely a battle of, both of them just throwing 1-2s, 1-2s, 1-2s. I thought Vivi threw more volume, but Grasso's punches had more pop. And Grasso stopped a takedown by Vivi at about the 4 minute mark. And there wasn't much else to the round. Fifth round, final round. Grasso really took a counter approach here. She was landing 1-2s for every jab thrown by Vivi. So every time Vivi came forward and threw a jab, Grasso was throwing 1-2s. And she basically let Vivi come forward and then basically tagged her on the way in. So mostly a counter approach in the final round for Grasso. Vivi tried for a takedown twice, but didn't get either of them. So the fight went to the judges, and they scored it 50-45, 49-46, and 49-46, all for the winner by unanimous decision, Alexa Grasso. So congrats to Alexa Grasso. Now, there was some talk about the scoring in this one. Like, a lot of people thought, the fight was very close. And, I kind of get it. I kind of get why people thought it was close. And I was scoring it as I was watching it. And here's the thing. When I score, if you've watched my videos or my live streams before, when I score a fight, I try to score it with how I know the judges usually tend to score fights, having just watched for years and years. I gave Grasso the first round. I gave Vivi the second round based on the top control, based on, history. Third round was Grasso. Now the fourth round, which I said was the closest, I had that a swing round. Could have gone either way. And then the fifth round was Grasso. So, depending on how you scored the fourth round, which I said a swing round, the best you could give Vivi was 2 rounds to 3 for Grasso. Otherwise, it was definitely the 49-46 if you gave Grasso the fourth round. So, certainly don't have a problem with it. Of course, as a Grasso fan, I'm definitely glad that she won. I thought the fight was fun. It was a good, close fight. But yeah, it definitely had a clear winner. And, I liked it. I was entertained. I thought, both fighters needed a bit more urgency, and we'll mention that in a bit. The big thing out of this fight was that both fighters proved they can go 5 rounds. They answered that big question for both of them. Anytime a fighter steps into a main event for the first time, everyone's wondering, can they go all 5 rounds? And especially for Araujo, showed big improvements to her cardio. I mean, up until her last fight, she was basically a round and a half at best. And then she was done, just completely gassed out. But her last fight against Lee showed good cardio for 3 rounds. And then in this fight, she showed good cardio for 5 rounds. So very nice improvement for Araujo. The big thing that this fight came down to was the battle of the jabs. And Grasso won simply by following it up with a cross. Like, Vivi was throwing jabs, but just single jabs. She wasn't really following it up most of the time, whereas Grasso was following it up with the cross. So the 1-2 is what really won it for Grasso, especially on this when they were throwing simultaneously. That was what really allowed Grasso to land the cross. But yeah, Vivi just threw too many single punches, and that was what allowed Grasso to win. Also, if you were to have asked me before this fight, who hit harder, who threw harder punches, I'd have said Araujo. But you could tell watching the fight, watching the way they each reacted to the other's punches, who actually threw harder, and it was definitely Grasso. Every time Grasso landed, Vivi's head was moving. I mean, her head was being driven back, whereas Grasso seemed to eat the punches of Araujo. I thought that was very interesting. I mentioned earlier, neither fighter I thought showed enough urgency, which is true, and I think that's what allowed it to be as close visually as it was. And they both kind of just went with the flow until like the final 10-15 seconds of most of the rounds, and I thought both of them needed to show more urgency. Question: is Grasso the best pure boxer in the women's divisions? Just a query. I'm not going to say if she is or isn't. It's a question for you to decide. Anyway, let's talk fights to make. Let's talk things to work on first. For Grasso, like I said, that sense of urgency, and this is something that has been haunting her for quite a while. And people have picked up on it for a long time, that she just doesn't show enough urgency in her fights. She's got to show more urgency, especially now that she's in that top 5 and going to be facing top 5 opponents. It's going to be tough. It's not going to get any easier, and she's got to show more urgency in her fights. For Araujo, too many single punches. Got to throw more combinations. Can't just throw nothing but single punches. You've got to throw punches in bunches. Especially if you're against someone like Grasso, who's going to, counter as effectively as that, based on nothing but a jab cross. Now for fights to make for Grasso, I don't think they're going to give her a title fight off of this. There's another fight coming up this weekend, Chukagian versus Fiora. I think the winner of that, especially if it's Fiora, is most likely to get the next title shot, because that'll be whoever wins that will be ranked number 1. Also, there's Tyler Santos in the wings whenever she comes back from injury. So I don't think they're going to give Grasso a title shot right away. So I say give her Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy's at number 3 or 4 right now. I think that'd be a good test. And Murphy will make the fight dirty. Like she'll grime it down. She's a grinder. And I think Grasso needs that kind of test right now. For Araujo, I'd like to see her fight the winner of Jennifer Maia versus Marina Moroz. I think Maya's number 7 right now. Don't quote me on that, but I think she's around number 7. So for Araujo, it's a step down. And I think the winner of that fight should be good. And that fight goes down November 19th. So that would be a good fight for Araujo. All right, so those are my thoughts on this fight. Alexa Grasso defeating Viviane Araujo via unanimous decision. Let me know your thoughts on the bout in the comments down below. If you liked the video, please give it a like. While you're at it, why not go ahead and subscribe to WMMAC Now, the best, most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.